Hello, sixth grade. Welcome to our first video lesson. So you should have out your math notebook and your textbook and a pencil, and now you're ready to go. Here we go. So I want you to think about when you were young, how you first used numbers. Well, you might remember that it was a big deal to learn to count, right? 1, 2, 3. That's how you learn numbers initially in your life. So these are called natural numbers or counting numbers. So if you could draw this kind of an oval shape with the word natural numbers. And so what we want to do is put in some examples of natural numbers. Natural numbers would be 1, 2, 3. Now you should put those inside of the oval. So my oval is not showing up. Having a little technical difficulty, so I'm going to pause and fix it. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. So what we want to do is we want to write some examples of natural numbers inside this oval. So I'm going to say 1, 2, and 3. So obviously 17 is also a natural number. Natural numbers are also called counting numbers, and they are things that numbers that you can physically count of. So if I have 2 turtles, 2 would be a counting number. Okay, so it's one color. You see that? So now we're going to move on to another group of numbers. Oh, but before we get to that, we're going to think about 0. Is 0 a counting number? Is 0 a natural number? When you learned to count, did you count with 0? You didn't, did you? So 0 is not considered a natural number. It is considered a whole number. So adding 0 to the set of natural numbers now gives you a set of whole numbers. Now you see how that orange oval sits inside the purple one? That means that natural numbers are part of whole numbers, but 0 is a whole number. It's not a natural number though, because it does not fit inside that natural number bubble. So I'm going to move myself out of the way so you can see all the words. Now, when you're watching instructional videos, if you have a question, if you need more time to catch up, you hit pause and you let yourself catch up, okay? All right, here we go. So when you, up to now in math, you've used a number line, right? You use it a lot. And if you're in my classes, you know I love number lines. So normally we start at 0 and we move forward, right? But you know what? That's, first of all, you see these arrows right here and right here. Arrows at the end of lines are there to indicate that those lines continue on forever. So number lines continue on forever in both directions also. So we're going to today think about what happens if you continue the number line. So what I'd like you to do now is you're going to pause your video. You're going to draw a number line. Now, if you are using graph paper, that's really great because your spacing is done for you, because there's vertical lines and there's horizontal lines. So each of the spaces between should be the same distance. Okay, we want even spacing on your number line. And I am kind of particular about that because I want you to be as accurate as you can in your drawing and representations of different forms of math. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is to draw that number line, go ahead and put 0 through 10, but then stop and let's see what happens next. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to think about what happens to the left of 0. Well, to the left of 0 is the opposite of what happens to the right of 0. So if you think about 0 as sort of the middle of our number line, we're going to, if we move to the right, we would count 1, 2, 3, correct? If we move to the left, we're going to do the opposite of that. And the opposite would be -1, -2, -3. So go ahead and fill those numbers in. And those are numbers just like any other number. So we put a negative sign in front of it. -2, -3. Sorry, my name is popping up there. I'm not sure why. I am writing on my iPad as we share this screen. -4, -5, -6, -7, -8, -9, and -10. So what do you notice about that? Again, if you need to pause the video so that you can complete your number line, you should do that. But in the meantime, I want you thinking about what it means to be opposite. What does the word opposite mean? Well, if you take, what I'd like you to do is put a point on 3. That means we're going to put a dot, and let's put the letter F for Flint. That's called graphing a number and labeling it. So when we graph a number, we're going to put a point on a location on the number line, and we're going to label it with the letter F. Now, I want to also put a point on the opposite of that point. So if we moved 3 spaces to the right in order to get point F, we go back to 0 and go 3 spaces to the left to get its opposite. So if we start at 0 and we count over 1, 2, 3, we could graph that point, and that would be the opposite of 3. And where are we? We are at -3. And let's put a G there for Gina. That is my first name. And now we have my initials on the number line. So we can say -3 and +3 are opposites. And the reason they are opposites is they are the same distance from 0, but in opposite directions. So then how would you define a negative number? Think about that. How would you define a negative number? Well, how did we start? We started with a group of whole numbers, right? This part of the number line is made up of whole numbers. Remember that starting at 1, those are counting numbers, but when you include 0, then they become whole numbers or whole quantities. So these are whole numbers. The negative numbers are opposite of the whole numbers. Now, you might say, but what about 0? Is there an opposite to 0? Depends who you ask. Our textbook says yes. The opposite of 0 is 0. Your math teacher says no, there is no opposite of 0. So there's a little bit of controversy about that question. So here's a pretty picture where you can see that 3 and -3 are opposites because they are the same distance from 0. They also have opposite signs. Sign. Now, what's a sign? That's one of those words that has multiple meanings. The sign is what goes in front of a number. So it's easy to see that on -3, the sign is negative, right? But what about 3? Well, we've never written 3 this way, have we? But it means the same thing. When you don't have a sign in front of a number, it means it's positive. But sometimes you're going to see it with a positive sign in front of it. Either way, it is the same number. All right, so let's go back to your diagram. Remember, we started with that orange portion, that orange set of numbers called natural numbers. And we said natural numbers could be examples of numbers. Natural numbers are 1, 2, 3. Whole numbers, then add the number 0 to it. Now, what happens to integers? Integers now is when we add negatives. Now, I didn't put them in any order, right? -1, -7, -12, those are all integers, but so is 0, and so is 1, and so is 2, and so is 3, because all of these numbers that we've written in belong to this set of integers. Anything inside that big oval is considered an integer. Now, 0 is an integer. It's a whole number, but it's not a natural number. Okay, so sometimes that's a little confusing, but we'll talk more about that. All right, so what's the opposite of 52? How many of you think it's -52? Ding, ding, you're right. What's the opposite of -312? How many of you are thinking +312? Ding, ding, you're right. Now, we don't have to say positive 312. We just say 312, right? And then the opposite of 0, we cover that. I don't think there is an opposite of 0. But if it comes up, you should say 0. Okay, so now sometimes we can assign an integer to a situation. And so I want you to think about what integer we could write for 7 degrees below Celsius. This is something you've probably heard before, right? Temperatures, 7 degrees below Celsius. Well, what word tells you it's positive or negative? Well, hopefully you see that it is the word below. So -7 would be the way that we would represent 7 degrees below 0. Going up 4 floors on an elevator, +4, or just 4, right? Owing $50. And you could sometimes think about words as, are they good or bad, right? If they're good, they're going to be positive. If they're bad, they're going to be negative. If you owe money, that's not a good thing, right? Yeah, so that would be negative. 150 meters above sea level. There's a little bit of a clue there. The word above would indicate it's positive. Move back 4 spaces. You're playing a board game with your family, right? If you have to move back 4 spaces, that's generally not a good thing, depending on the game you're playing. So that would be negative. 5 shots under par. Any of you golfers? If you are, then you understand this. If you're not a golfer, you might not understand this. 5 shots under par is negative. Under is a negative word, right? But in golf, you want a low score. So actually, this is a good thing in golf. Okay, so your assignment today is in your book. It is page 10. And I just wanted to show you a couple of things on it. It says the instructions here, graph the opposite of the number line of the number shown on the number line. So you see there is a point that has got a blue dot on it. That's the point they're giving you, and you put a point on the opposite. Now, if you do this in a mechanical pencil, it's going to be hard to see. So if you want to use a pen here so that it's clear where your points are whenever you graph on a number line, that would be fine. Okay, so you're going to do that on number 6 and 7, and then down here you have to on number 1 you have to graph some points, and then you also have to do the same thing on 2, 3, and 4. So we're not going to do this assignment online because it's hard to draw number lines on the online assignments, but I will give you the answer key tomorrow, and then you can see how you did. All right, good luck. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye.